certain technical glitches. Otherwise, zoology is supposed to be every Tuesday, 12 o'clock. And that session is something that we are doing today. Yes, yesterday's one is something that we are doing today. It would be Reproductive Health Chapter, one shot in the Chak series for you. Right? So here we go. We're going to complete a very, very, very important chapter for the NEET in the next 2 hours session. Right? So reproductive health chapter is something that every line of it is quite important. And if you cover just two topics, right, within that, that you are definitely getting a score from that of your a good score in that of your NEET examination. We will go about it now, and I'm going to emphasize on those topics as well. So before we go ahead, let me brief you that please log on to Infinity Learn website, like, share, and subscribe our videos. You can log on the YouTube. You can log on to the website and register for our courses. You get a good discount with a coupon code of Mythili40. With that said, let's go ahead with today's session, right? So this is the Chak Day series that we are going ahead with, and definitely do like, share, and subscribe our videos on the YouTube, right? And this is our schedule. We have finished the human reproduction chapter last Tuesday. Yes, it was supposed to be yesterday, but I apologize for the technical glitches that we had. We are doing it today. It's the reproductive health. Stay tuned for more in the month of Jan. Do attend our next zoology sessions, which is scheduled on 18th Jan and the 25th Jan, where we're going to complete two more very important chapters from your class 11 syllabus: Animal Kingdom and Digestion and Absorption, right? So yeah, so this is our schedule that you can see, right? So I have given you the schedule, and now this is a very, very important weightage that I am providing with here, right? See that every year there are two questions on an average. That's a very, 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 very important point that you need to note. It's a small chapter from which two questions are possible. It's a nice 4 and 4, 8 marks that you can score in your NEET examination. On an average, there are two questions that are appearing, and which topic within that of reproductive health is also something that I'm telling you. It is contraceptive methods, right? And number two, it is your arts, assisted reproductive technologies, right? These are the two important topics from which in the reproductive health, you learn these two small topics and you get good score in the NEET examination. How easy is that? Right? So very, very important chapter. Each and line is important, each and every line. Also, it is something that is providing you with, smaller topics, but more weightage as well. So these are the two important topics that you need to concentrate upon, and you will ace those two questions, right? So the reproductive health, here are some beautiful pictures that I put up for you from as far as this chapter is concerned. Yes, there was a two-child norm. That is something that our country started long back. Hum do hamare do poster is something that maybe your generation would not have seen. but this is something a family planning have started up with in the initial days. This lot of one child norm that is, adapted by many of the urban couples nowadays. And of course, the infertility is another major problem that is observed nowadays, where the arts technique can help. Of course, there are a lot of couples who are willing to, adopt also nowadays, which is a good trend. Which is definitely a very very good trend. Which is something that's mentioned in your NCRT text also. Apart from talking about arts, adoption is always a good strategy that can be in case of infertility. If not, also not necessarily every time has a biological child in a country like ours, right, with a huge population, right? So here we go. We start with the chapter, the reproductive health. So, reproductive health from the very first paragraph from your NCRT text, what should you be concentrating upon? It will be the according to the WHO, the World Health Organization. So, World Health Organization, WHO. It is something an abbreviation. And here, let me tell you one more thing from this particular chapter. Concentrate on the abbreviations, right? Concentrate upon abbreviations. That is also something very, very important, right? So this is something that you can uh, concentrate upon as far as this particular chapter is concerned. Concentrate upon that of the abbreviations, right? So WHO, how does it brief the reproductive health definition? It's physical, it's emotional, it's behavioral, and it's social, right? So when we define health as well, is it just the absence of disease? Right? No, it is something which is you know um, sorry about that. Right? Is it just absence of the disease? No, absolutely not. This is an overall and holistic approach that we are looking at, right? It is something that we have to talk about, where we are talking about not just physical, emotional, behavioral, as well as social well being. So, this is something that we need to concentrate upon. Hi, Subhiksha. You're attending for the first time. That's okay. Always welcome to the class, kiddo. It's always good to have new people, right? Welcome to the class, Subhiksha, right? And then we are talking about the reproductive health here, the very definition, right? The reproductive health definition is a holistic approach we are talking about, in just like health definition. In health, what did we learn, or how do we define in human health and diseases? Another important chapter in the NCRT text, right? It's just not absence of disease, but it is a physical, social, mental well-being, right? Same with the reproductive health. It's the physical, emotional, behavioral, as well as the social well being, right? So it's a holistic approach that we are looking at as far as the modern definitions are concerned. It's very, very important that we know about the sex related aspects, right? It's very, very important that we understand all these different aspects, right? So moving on further, what do we have next? Now, with a huge number of population in our country like ours, you might be wondering, looking at this particular statement, India is one of the first few countries to start with the family planning program. Although it may amaze you, it's actually true that we are one among the first few countries in the world that have predicted this kind of a problem. Like the problem basically is the population explosion, right? So we have kind of predicted this problem and have started with this particular strategy of, how to curb the population explosion. So this family planning program was started as soon as year 1951. This is where one very important year that I want you to remember, right? This one as well as MTP that we'll discuss later point of time, which is 1971, right? So these are two important years. Yes, of course, years are very, very important when we talk about the acts in the environmental issue chapter later point of time. As of now, let me brief to you that this particular year is something that you need to memorize, right? Family planning program started by the Indian government in the year 1951. Quite important for your MCQs. So later point of time, the reproductive and child health care program is also something that is, operating for several different aspects. When we talk about the reproductive and child health care program, this is something which is a holistic approach again, right? So this is something that is talking about not just providing facilities, support for build up of reproductive health society, but it includes various number of aspects, whether it is creating awareness among the people, right, about the reproductive health, right, or introduction of the sex education to into the schools, or introduction of the family planning programs, or whether it is performing this vasectomy, tubectomy in order to curb the population explosion, right? All this awareness basically created is coming under this umbrella reproductive and child health care program. Remember, this is a very, very important abbreviation. So Piksha, hope you're following this. RCH. It is basically reproductive, right, and child health care. So this is something which is very, very important. Child health care, very, very important definition that I want you to observe and learn, right? So very important abbreviation there. Please do concentrate upon this particular abbreviation RCH. And in the previous slide, it is basically 1951, right? So with the help of audio, visual and print media, government and non-governmental agencies have taken various steps to create awareness. Like these are some things again your generation would not have seen, but this is something that has appeared as an advertisement, by the government of India, on the television, in the newspapers. There was this, a happy couple that were shown, to adult couple, and two children, a happy family. There were posters that were given with the caption "Hum do, hamare do," right? So this is something which is shown with a happy couple. Those were the posters that were released. So this is all something that is, given to the print media and all, in order to be able to explain the importance of a small family being a very happy family. And this is one other important point I want you to concentrate upon: introduction of sex education in schools. Now, this is very, very, very important. This is basically the reason why we are discussing this topic at your level, at plus one, plus two. Why do we, need to even understand this, or why the sex education is introduced into the schools? It's to break several myths. Many of you may be having these, because yeah, this is a taboo even now in several parts of the country, to discuss about the sex or sexual intercourse or sex related aspects or the reproductive health. So this is something that needs to be properly educated. Let the truths be put forth, right? So this is very, very important that you understand that whatever we are we need to be educated with as far as reproductive health is concerned. It's important that we know. For example, if I have to give you, many regions follow different kinds of traditions when a girl is menstruating, right? So they are not supposed to touch pickle, maybe they're not supposed to wear new clothes, maybe they're not supposed to perform sacred activities, spiritual ones, religious ones during those days. So these are several things that are associated. Just to give you an example, now, for us, it's important to understand it's a natural phenomenon. It's a very natural process that is occurring in the humans, right? The menstruation, and not necessary that all these different myths that are associated with, maybe with the pickles, the food that is touched by them gets spoiled, or maybe it is impure. They're considered impure during these days, or maybe they shouldn't exercise or get into any kind of physical activity. Not at all, not at all. Absolutely, it's safe and fine as long as you're perfectly healthy. You can participate in the exercise, or you can perform the sports, everything as far as you take a proper care for the bleeding, right? So these are several myths that are associated. Maybe if you're having sexual intercourse during the menstruation, the pregnancy wouldn't occur. No, there are chances it can occur, or pregnancy is something that will occur, whenever sexual intercourse have suppose even during, not during the ovulation. So that is why in human reproduction chapter before, we understood when female ovulates and when are the chances for the conception to occur at the highest, right? So these are all some of the myths I'm giving you as an example, and it's important that we understand or we break these myths for a proper understanding, right? And then we move on to furthermore how you can create awareness and how it helps. Basically, you have an understanding of sexually transmitted infections. In new edition, we have it as STIs, which is sexually transmitted infections. That's the sexually transmitted infections. This is how the new edition talks about it. Previously, it is given as sexually transmitted diseases. Now we talk about sexually transmitted infections, right? So STIs is something that we need to have a knowledge of, infections that are spread by the sexual intercourse. So this is also something that we're going to touch in this particular topic, right? And educating people, especially fertile couples and those of marriageable age group, what are the birth control options that they have. This is a very, very, very important topic that we'll be discussing in this particular chapter. Birth control options, or what are we calling them? They basically the contraceptive methods. These are the contraceptive methods. Very, very important one subtopic I told you that we are going to discuss in this particular chapter, right? So it's very, very important that we understand what are the birth control methods that are available, right? So that the population growth can be curbed. So care for the pregnant mothers, postnatal care of the mother and child, importance of breastfeeding, equal opportunities for the male and the female child. Yes, to a lot extent we have improved on this in the last 40 years, but there is further improvement that is required. Equal opportunity is something that we should talk about, because even today, female feticide is something that's quite common in many areas, right? So it's very, very important that we create this awareness, importance of breastfeeding. Now, this is something that we have to create an awareness among the literate people as well, because in terms of the career and the work goals and all, many mothers think it's not very important. They just want to get back to the work. Yes, that's important, but it is also important to feed the baby at least for 6 months, right? Breastfeeding is something that is preventing lots and lots of disorders later point of time also, not just at youth. Recently there was an interesting article talking about how when a mother breastfeeds the child later, problems like obesity also can be prevented, right? Interesting linkages that are found by some of the great researchers or the scientists. So all these and postnatal care, nowadays you would hear about this postpartum depression, right? Once after the mother has her baby, it's quite overwhelming. It's a lot of stress whether she can raise that human being, and all these add to a certain depression in the mother, whether she is able to take care of the baby or not. So many fears, many pressures, stress add up to this kind of a thing. So it's very, very important to take care of the mother. If you talk about, below the poverty line, many of them have children in the successive years. It is affecting their health. They are feeding one baby and they're already pregnant with the other. So this is what is leading to a lot of maternal mortality. Many mothers are dying early, having too many children. Now, let me present another fact to you that one pregnancy is something that leads to loss of calcium, that is almost of one tooth, right? How much of calcium we have in a tooth, right? That is amount of calcium a mother is losing due to pregnancy. So it's important that she retains those calcium. That's why these osteoporosis problems also quite common in the women. Yeah, that's for another topic I'll discuss for another day, but it's very, very important. That's just an example of what is the kind of nutrition a mother should be provided and how they have to space their children. They can't have successive pregnancies which can affect the mother's health as well as of that of the baby, right? So the social evils like sex abuse, sex related crimes, these are also unfortunately or on a rampage in a country like ours, right? It's all due to the lack of the sexual education or any education for that matter at all. It is among these illiterate people, where they do not have a knowledge of this, whether it is the curiosity or excitement or lack of balance psychologically. So these are some things that are increasing. So this is something that can be curbed again with provision of the sex education at the school level, right? And next up, this is something that I have summed up for you. Basically, all these strategies that we're talking about. Yes, family planning program, I already told you it's very, very important. It started in the year 1951 with the help of audio visual programs. I give you an example one also, or the through print and electronic media. It's important to create awareness of several things, whether it is STIs, the sexually transmitted infections, or whether it is the contraceptive methods, or I would say the birth control options, right? To make it easier for you, how to prevent conception, right? Or the these only come under family planning methodologies, or to break all those myths that are associated with the sex, right? Breaking of several myths and superstitions that are associated with that of the reproductive health, right? So these are all some things that we need to address. Introduction of sex education in schools, it is information regarding reproductive organs, adolescence related changes. Many a times, elders in the family or the parents in the family, it's very, very important that you discuss with your children all these changes that they are undergoing as teenagers, or they're confused, they do not know what's happening with them, or they are shy or scared to discuss these aspects, and believe in a lot of myths which they get from several sources. So it's very, very important that they understand all those changes that they are undergoing during the adolescence, whether it is growth of the pubic hair or the axial hair, or breasts in the females, or facial hair in the males, or the voice change in that of the boys. So it's very, very important that you understand why you are undergoing all these changes. It's just a part and parcel of the growth in the humans. There's nothing to be shy about or scared about, right? So this is very, very reason why it's important to introduce the sex education in the schools, right? And then we talk about another very, very important prenatal diagnostic technique, which is what is referred to as amniocentesis. I would give it a double star because there are questions that have appeared in your PMTs before as far as this particular technique is concerned. This is one question that's given in your previous NEET examinations. What is the amniocentesis technique? So it's basically a prenatal diagnostic technique, right? It's a prenatal diagnostic technique that is allowing us to understand whether a fetus is, healthy enough or is it suffering from any of the genetic disorders like the Down syndrome, hemophilia, sickle cell anemia, etc. So these are all some of the disorders that, in case a fetus is suffering from, can be detected with this particular technique, which is called the amniocentesis. Now, unfortunately, this is the technique that is being misused for the sex determination, right? So this is being misused for the sex determination process, which is quite a wrong thing to do because as far as if you want to know just the sex of the baby of the fetus, that is okay. You just want to know whether it's a girl or a boy, and either ways you're going to raise and nurture this baby. Definitely that should be fine, but unfortunately, again, in a country like ours, it is leading to a lot of female feticide. What does that mean? Killing of the female fetus. This is something that although this particular technique is banned for this reason, you cannot, although amniocentesis is performed, a lot of clinics that you visit, in case you go to many of this gynec clinic, you would find this board there, right? A common experience. All you children also would have read a board saying that, you cannot ask for the sex of the baby. But still, again, unfortunately, so there is, a lot of this where the people are curious to find out and they have their own ways to find out. Maybe there are certain technicians or some literate population also helping them to know. And once they know, they're killing it. And that's why the ratio is imbalanced. We have an imbalance in the ratio of the males and females just because of this reason in our country. So this is the reason why it is banned. So this is an important question at the NEET level also, that why is there a ban on the amniocentesis technique? It's because of the amniocentesis technique is banned for the sex determination. Others, you can still understand if the baby is suffering from any of the Down syndrome or hemophilia or sickle cell anemia. And, and yes, of course, it cannot be, detecting something like a jaundice, previous NEET question that's given, or a cleft palate. So these are not some things which can be detected by this. But yes, Down syndrome, hemophilia, sickle cell anemia, these are some things that can be detected, right? So here is a beautiful diagram I'm showing you in order to for you to understand how this particular technique works. So here's the fetus, and there is this fluid all around the baby. It's nicely protecting the baby, preventing the mechanical shock absorption, right? So this fluid that's present around the baby is what is referred to as the amniotic fluid. This is present in the amniotic sac. Just before the delivery of the baby, when we say the mother has the water just broke, it's just this fluid that's coming out just before the delivery of the baby, right? So this fluid contains cells that are shed by the growing fetus, right? The cells that are shed by the growing fetus are present in this particular amniotic fluid. So what we do in this technique is you aspirate with a small micro syringe. Of course, it's a little invasive process because you're putting this micro injection, but again, not very risky or harmful. But small amounts of the fluid is aspirated, and this particular fluid is sent for the diagnosis. It's something that is analyzed with this particular fluid, and because it has fetal cells, it helps us analyze if the baby is suffering from something like a Down's syndrome, right? Some of these genetic disorders, and it is also allowing us to understand the sex of the baby. It's also something that is allowing the sex determination. You can know whether it is a female baby, an XX karyotype, or a male baby, which is XY. And a lot of times parents discover it's a female baby, they go for a female feticide. Actually, the laws say that you can go for an abortion only if you know the child is suffering from any of the disorders, or the mother is somebody who might have a certain number of health risks because of the further continuation of pregnancy, or if it is just a result of the casual pregnancy, only then one can go for an abortion as long as child is healthy. Just because it's a female baby, you go for an abortion. This is something that is definitely illegal. So for that reason, this is one technique that is banned. So hopefully, Subhiksha, you're following this. You understand what is the amniocentesis technique. It's a prenatal diagnostic technique that is for the determination of the sex, to understand the genetic disorders if the fetus is suffering from, right? So all these are certain things that you can understand, but it is banned in a country like ours for the sex determination alone. That is something because it's leading to the female feticide, or the killing of the female baby, right? And then we move on to the a very important contraceptive method. So this is something, as I said, we'll discuss later, but just a mention of this in the NCRT plane, right? So this is something that is given. So let me put forth that this Saheli is one oral contraceptive that is developed by our own scientists, which is CDRI Lucknow. Very, very, very important at your need level, right? Saheli is an oral contraceptive that is designed by our own scientists, the Central Drug Research Institute in Lucknow, right? So that is where this particular oral contraceptive is designed. And what's so significant about it? Why are we giving it a special mention in our NCRT text? Because it's a non-steroidal pill. So what do we understand by non-steroidal pill? It is something which doesn't have hormones in it. Now, whether it's a contraceptive method also or not, it is definitely creating an hormonal imbalance, right? It may have its side effects immediately or in the near future. So this is something that's a non-steroidal pill. It's also taken once a week. Another, because when we talk about other contraceptive pills, that you will understand it needs to be taken daily. So this, on the other hand, is something that can be taken just once in a week. It's a non-steroidal pill. If you're talking about, yeah, ma'am, you said it's non-steroidal, what does it actually contain? It consists of a component called centichromine. So it has something called centichromine. It is blocking the estrogen receptors so that it can be contraceptive, doesn't allow the pregnancy to occur, right? So apart from this, what else is done in order to curb the population growth? It is for decreasing it. There are several methods that are followed by the government. We already discussed better awareness, whether it is sex related matters or leading to decreased maternal infant mortality rate. and increased number of couples with small families, better detection, cure for STIs, right? So this is all something that is creating a reproductively healthy society, right? Reproductively healthy society. And then population explosion is something here. You don't have to memorize the numbers. You don't have to get scared at all looking at these numbers. These are just giving you a glimpse into supporting the fact about population explosion. In the very beginning of this chapter, they're talking about how the population has grown in leaps and bounty. So, in order to support that statement, certain numbers are provided in here. Here, certain numbers are given for you to understand. Yes, population explosion has occurred, right? The world population, which is around 2 billion in 1900, in 1900 year, it was 2 billion and it's rocketed to 6 billion by 2000, right? And by 2011 it is 7.2 billion. So it is from 2 billion, it has increased to 6 billion to about 7.2 billion, whether it is in the year 1900 to 2000, right, to 2011. So this is how there is increase in the population. A similar trend is observed as far as India is concerned. Now, this is some stats that are given at the world level. When you look at it, in India, it has moved from 350 million, it has reached a billion mark in 2000 and crossed over 1.2 billion. It's like just to give you a glimpse of what these numbers mean in the world population. If you look at it, every seventh person is an Indian. Now it has moved further to saying that maybe every fifth person is an Indian. Initially, a few years back, we talked about, if you look at the world population, start counting, every seventh person would be an Indian, right? So this is how it is increasing. So these numbers are just reflecting or supporting the statement that there is population explosion that is occurring everywhere, right? So you don't have to worry about memorizing these numbers, right? So these will not be something that will be given at your NEET level, right? A rapid decline in death rate, maternal mortality rate, and infant mortality rate is also contributed to increase in population explosion. So previously there used to be a lot of deaths during, delivering the baby. And nowadays it's not so because of improved medical facilities. I wouldn't say it is totally stopped. Even today in rural areas, they suffer a lot because they do not have a certified gynec, right? Hopefully you people go out there, crack NEET, become great doctors and serve the rural population as well, right? And so they rely on what midwives, these old females who help or who have a lot of experience in delivering the babies. So this is something that is leading to a lot of uh, deaths of the mother. And there are infant mortality rates also that are on high, which is decreased, which is leading to again the population explosion, right? And then we move on further to how the reproductive child health care program is something that's taking care of creating this awareness. So why are we saying basically that population explosion is something that it's not good, it's not a good trend? Why? Because as there is a raise in that of the population, this is something that is eventually causing a decrease in the available resources, right? So this is something that if later in the evolution chapter also you will talk about this particular statement given by Thomas long back. Thomas Malthus stated that population increases geometrically, and on the other hand, the resources increase arithmetically. So this is something that is given a statement. Just recall that statement. You observe that there is an increase in the population. It's definitely something that is causing decrease in the resources, right? So this is one a reason why we need to curb the population growth. We need to decrease the numbers, or you maintain it a constant, not in the terms of decrease in the sense killing go about people, but you cannot bring more and more children. A couple can be confining with only just a child, or in a country like ours, even an adoption is a very good trend that can be followed, right? So next we move on to, as I mentioned in the very introduction, hum do, hamare do, we two, and we have, we need another two. It is will be a happy couple. Also later, one child norm is also something that is adopted. Now, this is also one big debate going across the country. Initially, the female age for the marriage was raised to 18. That's a big leap back then, because child marriages are something which were rampant back then. And even today, in certain areas, there are unfortunately child marriages that are performed. But legally, a female child should be 18, a male should be 21 to get married. Nowadays, there's a debate going on. If you're watching the current affairs, that even the female age should be further raised, right? A female age also should be further raised in for the correct age for the marriage, right? Maybe it should be raised to about 21 is something that is on a debate nowadays. But this is also quite important. Can be made an MCQ, so it's important that you understand a female is should be 18 at least as of now, and male should be 21, which is the legal marriageable age, right? And then we talk about the very important contraceptive methods. Contraceptive methods. Why are we calling it the contraceptive methods? Try and understand, break up this word, as I always keep telling, as far as biology is concerned. What is meant by conception? It is the formation of the zygote, or its implantation, the fusion of the sperm and the ovum, the formation of the zygote, right? Hi, Vivacious. Good to see you, kiddo. Babu Nayak. Hi. And I don't get your name, but MDYU. Welcome to the class. MSKOT. Yeah, Ankita, very nice kiddo. Vivacious Ankita, you've been following classes from the very beginning. Love you both kiddos. It's very nice to see you both come back to the class. And Ankita also has given the answer where the marriageable legal marriageable age is something that is 18 and 21. Yes, there's a debate going on whether it should be raised further to 21 and 23, right? And then good to see you all back again. Let's go ahead with the lesson. So conception is something that we're talking about, where it is the pregnancy. You're contradicting it, right? Contradicting it, which is why these are referred to as the contraceptive methods. These are referred to as the contraceptive methods. So what should be a contraceptive like? It should be user friendly, it should be easily available, it should be effective, it should be reversible with no or least side effects. So these are all the characteristics of a ideal contraceptive if you're asked at your board level, right? This is something that will help you read this. The ideal contraceptive is something that should be user friendly, it should be easily available, it should be effective, it should be reversible, or it should be one without with no or least side effects, right? That those 4 or 5 words will gain you good marks at the board level. And it should not interfere with the sexual drive. That is also, of course, it shouldn't be something that is interfering with the sexual act. So wide range of contraceptive methods are presently available, which can be grouped into the natural methods, the barrier methods, IUDs, oral contraceptives, injectables, implants, and the surgical methods. I have a beautiful diagram for you so that you understand this. Yes, Ankita, we'll check that for you and we'll get back in the next class for sure. If it's already raised, I know that there's a debate over the raising of the marriageable age. If it has been already raised, I will definitely confirm that in your next class while we discuss the Animal Kingdom, the first year chapter for you. Hope that clears. So, contraceptive methods. It includes the natural or the traditional methods, the barrier methods, the condoms, IUDs, those devices that can be inserted into the uterus, the oral contraceptive methods, the pills that can be taken orally, injectables, right, which can be injected in the very name you have it, implants, they're just planted beneath your skin. It's subcutaneously. These are some things that can be inserted, and of course the surgical methods. So these are some things which the overall categories, if you look at the contraceptive methods, right, that we are about to discuss now. So the natural methods, what is the biggest advantage when we say we have with the natural methods? The natural methods, no side effects at all. As simple as that, absolutely no side effects. But when we talk about its disadvantage, what is the disadvantage that is associated with it, right? This Ravi Teja Naik, who has answered vasectomy, tubectomy. Ravi Teja Naik also says what happens when they are failed during coitus. That's where we are coming to, dear Ravi Teja. That's precisely what I am going to discuss. Disadvantage, I just said, is basically high risk of pregnancy, right? It's a higher risk. What do you mean? Do I basically mean by high risk? It can lead to pregnancy. Now, what is the aim, agenda, goal behind contraceptive methods? Not to cause pregnancy. Now, this is something that can cause the pregnancy. A lot of methods, there's a high risk of failure for these methods. Now, this is what, hope I cleared that, Ravi Teja, for you. So, this is something which has a higher risk for failure. We are going to discuss the natural methods here. First one is periodic abstinence, right? It can be also called the rhythm method or the safe period, or it is also referred to as the calendar method, because certain calendar or knowledge of this reproductive technique is something that you need to have. So periodic abstinence is something that we are talking about. Thank you, Raviteja, for that response. So rhythm method or safe period or calendar method, what do we mean by this basically? Abstinence, very simple English word. Abstinence means you are staying away from something. Okay. For example, you abstain from alcohol. You don't drink alcohol. You abstain from smoking. You are not smoking. Here, what are you abstaining from? Sex. You are avoiding the sexual intercourse. Is it for all together? Yes, that's a contraceptive method, but not possible for the married couples, or right, any couples for that matter, right? So a certain period. So basically, what is periodic abstinence? It is abstaining or avoiding or preventing sex for a certain period. That is what is referred to as the periodic abstinence. Now, what should this period be? It should be 10 to 17. Why did we zero on in this period? If you recall from our human reproduction chapter, it's a 28-day reproductive cycle, right? In the 28-day reproductive cycle, when did we predict the ovulation? It is the 14th day. There is LH surge also, remember, right? LH surge, because of which 14th day is when the ovulation would occur. We do not want the days on which ovulation is occurring for the sex to happen, so that it leads to pregnancy. As simple as that. So if you can abstain from sexual intercourse during these days, okay, the pregnancy can be avoided, right? The chances of fertilization are very high during this period, that it's referred to as the fertile period. So sex should be avoided. So periodic abstinence is one natural method, coitus interruptus is another, and lactational amenorrhea is another. Ankita says 14. Yes, beta. Very good. Yes, kiddo. Basically, it's 14th if it's given as a 28-day cycle. Can you tell me if at all, say for example, it's a 35-day cycle, when would the ovulation be? That's a question for all of you. You can try answering as I go ahead with the lesson. I'll continue with the lesson, but let me repeat the question. Whoever wants to can answer this. Actually, everybody should attempt. I think attempt is the most important thing, right? Attempt is something that's very, very important. It's not about whether you're right or wrong. It's all about your attempt. That's what is making you a learner. That's what eventually making you a winner as well. So my question is, in case it's a 35-day cycle, when is the ovulation occurring? So you keep giving me your answers. I will go ahead with the lesson, right? So here is where I'm giving you another beautiful chart from the human reproduction itself. See, look at this, the release of ova. What is it called? It's called the ovulation. So when is it precisely occurring? If you're looking at a menstrual day, so this is a 28-day cycle that you are observing, right? LH surge. See, it is peaking. This is what is referred to as the LH surge. That is what is it causing? It's causing the rupture of Graafian follicle. Rupture of Graafian follicle, and thus it is also something that is causing the release of ovum, which is what is called as ovulation, right? And when is this occurring? If you're taking 28-day cycle, that's where they call it mid-cycle in the NCERT, not necessarily again all the time. I gave you the clue already, right? Ravi Teja has given the answer. Ankita has given the answer. I'm waiting for more answers as I move ahead. So when the ovulation is expected, if one is avoiding the sex, the sperm will not have an ovum to fertilize it, and thus pregnancy can be prevented. And this is a method called periodic abstinence, right? And then withdrawal coitus or coitus interruptus. What does this method do? While having sexual intercourse, just before the ejaculation, if penis can be withdrawn, right, taken away from the female genital tract, it is also a natural method of sexual intercourse. That way, what is happening? The semen is not ejaculated into the female genital tract, but outside. And so the pregnancy can be avoided. Again, there is a high risk of failure because even before ejaculation, there's a certain amount of fluid that's being ejaculated, which might contain very, very few sperm, may not or might. So this again have the chances to go and fertilize the ovum. So basically this is a method. During the sexual intercourse, the penis is withdrawn from the female genital tract, so the ejaculation doesn't happen inside, but it happens on the outside, right? So that is what is called as withdrawal or coitus interruptus method. Then let's understand another very important one, which is called the lactational amenorrhea. Again, divide the word. What does lactational mean? It is feeding the baby with the milk, right? Feeding baby with milk, breastfeeding. It's basically the breastfeeding of the baby, right? And amenorrhea, what does that mean? Absence of menstruation. It is basically absence of the menstruation, right? So menstruation is something that is not occurring when a mother is intensely feeding her baby with the milk, right? And that's why I always keep telling you to understand the term. You can definitely answer the question, right? Lactational amenorrhea, while baby is intensely fed with the milk, there is absence of menstruation, which is what is called as the lactational amenorrhea. It's usually effective for a period of 6 months. At least for a period of 6 months, it's quite effective. And and if you're looking at, in a depth, now yes, the NCRT mentions there's lactation that's going on, there's no menstruation, then there's no menstruation that's occurring, no ovulation, so no pregnancy is not occurring. But what is the technique behind, what exactly is the reason behind? Here we go. When breastfeeding, which is the hormone that's responsible for the production of the milk? It's the prolactin. So prolactin is in high concentrations. In a mother who's breastfeeding her baby, the prolactin is in high concentration. So this is going to cause the decrease in GnRH. What's GnRH? It's gonadotropin releasing hormone. Gonadotropin releasing hormone of hypothalamus. This is something that is inhibited. Now, because this is low, what will happen? There is low of gonadotropin itself, which is LH. When there is no LH, which will cause the rupture of the Graafian follicle? Nothing. So there is no ovulation. When there is no ovulation, there is no menstruation. That is the reason behind. Your NCRT text might actually only talk about what is happening with that of the uh, you know, why there is no menstruation that's occurring during the lactation. And so this is something that is not leading to the ovulation. Or so what is the reason behind, what exactly is not given in the NCRT? So reading between lines, understanding a little in depth of the NCRT is important. During breastfeeding the baby, right? The prolactin is the hormone which is high in concentration, right? It is something that is very high in that of the concentration. So it's because of high concentration of this particular hormone, it's inhibiting, it's a feedback mechanism of GnRH, there's low LH, and there's no ovulation that's occurring. So let me give you that answer which I asked. If you're looking at 35-day menstrual cycle, then you're subtracting 14 from it, which is 21. So Ankita, you're right, dear. Exactly right. You gave the right answer. Teja, thank you so much for your attempt. Yes, you are misled maybe by the NCRT saying that 14th day is when the ovulation is occurring. It's not a constant number, dear. The luteal phase is something that is constant. Yes, kiddos, luteal phase is something that's 14 days. So how many ever number of days that you are given in a menstrual cycle, you subtract 14 out of it, and that's how you get your day of ovulation. So very good, Ankita. Congratulations, you got that right. And congratulations, Teja, as well for your attempt. As I said, you're attempting only then you are learning, right? So if at all, it's a 35-day reproductive cycle, right? It is the 21st day that would be the day of the ovulation. So hope you understood that, guys. Let me move on to the next slide. This is something again not given in the NCRT textbook, but I'd like to add one more method because although CBSE students out there, you would have done a project of it also. You teachers would have discussed with you. It's a symptothermal method. It is a method which again helps, natural method. So what you do is, it's something which is, you're looking for physiological markers like, is there the production of abundant, clear, stretchy cervical mucus that is occurring, or the double check system that in the female, whether, hormonal changes are some things that can be detected. So based on the type of the cervical mucus or the temperature of the female. This is something that has to be checked even before getting out of the bed every single day, because a slight raise in temperature, when there is ovulation that is occurring, so that the pregnancy can be avoided, or the sexual intercourse can be avoided, or they actually attempt it if they are looking for conception, right? So this is one other natural method, again not given in the text, but I'm discussing. Um, so here comes the barrier methods. Barrier method is something, from the very name you can understand, it's a physical obstruction, right? So physically preventing the meeting of the sperm and ovum. Look at those diagrams given in the text, from condom of a male, the female that's given. So what is done, basically it's worn as a cover over the penis. It's something that is covering the penis. So during the sexual intercourse, what happens? The sperm is something that is being deposited in here in this cover like structure instead of the female genital tract. So during the sexual intercourse, this is again something that is not interrupting in any way with the sexual intercourse. It's just worn over as a cover over the penis. So what happens when ejaculation happens? All those sperms, right, they are deposited inside in this particular condom. It's a disposable one time usage one, right? And it's immediately disposed after the sexual intercourse, so it doesn't get into the female genital tract. So this is something that is not deposited into the female genital tract, but it stays there in the condom itself. So this is a barrier method where the physical meeting of the sperm and the ovum is prevented. Right? Nirod is a popular brand. Again, maybe your generation are ones who do not have heard much about it in the television, print, and mass media before. This is one popular brand of condom for the males initially in the years 80s, 90s, right? So this is having an additional benefit as well. It's not just preventing the conception, but this is something that can prevent a user from contracting STIs. Yes, Ravi Teja, you can go ahead asking that, dear. No problem at all. You can go about asking the question. As I go ahead with the lesson, I'll check and answer that for you, try and answer that for you. You can go ahead and ask them in the chat box, dear, not a problem. So we were talking about the barrier methods physically, which is interrupting the meeting of the sperm and the ovum. It's not just doing that, but it's preventing the contraction of certain STIs as well, sexually transmitted infections. Now, when we say when there are only for the males and they for the females, yes, initially they were designed only for the males. Later point of time, the female condoms were also some things which are designed, which are working exactly in the same manner, but these are some things which can be reused, and these are some things which are to be inserted into the female genital tract or an hour before the sexual intercourse. So these come in various forms: the diaphragms, cervical caps, warts. They may be made of this rubber, right? And these are some things which are to be inserted into the female genital tract. These are worn over the penis, right? These are worn over the penis, and these are something that are inserted inside into the female genital tract. Now, apart from this, if at all, there are certain chemical methods also that are, followed. Like, say, for example, there are spermicidal creams, jellies, foams that can be used together with these diaphragms. It's going to be even more effective. Now, spermicidal jellies, creams, and all that we're talking about can be of different forms. It can be in the creams, jellies, it can be of different compositions like boric acid, lactic acid, and all. Then you might be wondering, isn't it, harmful? Yes, some of them are allergic to it. It may cause side effects, and it is also made sure at the same time point that if they are used in very, very low concentration, so that maximally these allergies can be prevented. But yes, still some are allergic to this, right? Yes, it's lactic acid, Ankita, you're right. So the reusable barriers, as far as females are concerned, right? You may have come across a word in any of the reference books that you're talking about called femidomes, also the female condoms, right? So these are diaphragms, rubber, dome-shaped ones. Coroflex is one example. Prentis is one example. Dumas is an example. They must be uh, cervical caps. Sometimes they can be fitted to by the healthcare professionals. Here there are dome-like or rubber-like plastic cap which are having a thick rim. But mostly these barrier methods can be self-inserted at the home itself. Some others require health professional help, but IUDs definitely require professionals, right? So these are certain chemical methods that we're talking about. It can be boric acid, lactic acid, citric acid, zinc sulfate, potassium permanganate. Listening to those chemical names, you might be thinking, this, yes, potassium permanganate, also dear came in a four, Ankita, very good. All these different things that can be used. Yeah, sometimes people may be allergic to it. Sometimes, yes, these are used in very low concentrations. Delphin, Duragel, these are some things which are certain examples. Sponge, today as a part of old syllabus, they used to question about this. Non-oxynol 9 is something which is comprising the sponge. So all these chemical methods in combination with the diaphragm is something which is going to be quite effective contraceptive method. Can be quite an effective contraceptive method, right? And then we talk about IUDs. Again, mark this important, children, for your NEET level. Intrauterine devices, IUDs, right? From the very name, again, another abbreviation, as I was telling. Can you recall again from the beginning? RCH, Reproductive and Child Healthcare, WHO, World Health Organization, CDRI, Central Drug Research Institute, MMR, maternal mortality rate, the IMR, infant mortality rate. So these are all abbreviations, as I told from this lesson, that you need to understand. IUDs, intrauterine devices, devices that are inserted into the uterus. Intra is within uterus. These devices are to be inserted. Of course, it has to be strictly done by doctors or expert nurses. These cannot be self-inserted. No, this is not to be done. So unlike the previous barrier methods that we talked about, these cannot be self-inserted. So three categories. All these examples are very, very, very important. Non-medicated IUDs, Lippes loop, copper releasing IUDs, CUT, CU7, multiload 375, hormone releasing IUDs, Progestasert, LNG 20. Most of the times, these two number containing ones will be given so that you get confused in the examination. But make a chart of it and learn it. You will not be confused at all. Just make a chart of whichever you think there's too many words and all to be remembered. Don't start literally mugging it. Actually prepare a chart of it. This is one tip for all of you guys. Make a chart of it and stick it somewhere that you can see every day, maybe next to the mirror or over the mirror on top, right? Or on your study table where you spend a lot of your time. Wherever you can just stick it, just have a glance, just in a day, well, just while passing through it, also just give it a glance, and it will stay in your memory for very, very, very long time period, instead of sitting and trying to keep on saying that Lippes loop, Lippes loop, Lippes loop. You end up writing Lippes loop in maybe a hormone releasing one instead of non-medicated one, right? So try and understand the concept. So multi-load 375 is 375 of this copper wire that's around this plastic device, right? Why copper? Because copper is something that is suppressing the motility of the sperm. It suppresses the motility of the sperm so that it doesn't swim all the way to the fallopian tube, to the ovum, in order to be able to fertilize it, right? So this is something that can be suppressing the sperm motility copper ions. So it's present CUT, CU7, multi-load 375, right? And then there are these hormone releasing IUDs also, like the progestasert, LNG20, right? So these are hormone releasing ones. Hormones are also working in terms of preventing the ovulation and all. So each of these work in different ways. Abbreviations are so simple. Yes, Teja. Yes, make a sticky notes. That is also an important tip Ravi Teja's got to offer. He's trying to help you, other kids out there. Try and make sticky notes and stick it somewhere, and at the same time, don't make it a huge jungle, like, just kidding, because if you have too many also, again, it seems overwhelming, right? Try to have one sticky note for a certain period of time where you think it's enough, and have another set. Try to do that on a board, right? That is also an important tip. Thank you, Teja. That hope others also follow what Ravi Teja Naik has given for the others here, right? So here, this is the chart I was talking about. Make a chart of something like this type of IUDs, non-medicated. It is something that's increasing phagocytosis of the sperm in the uterus. So it's basically allowing eating away of the sperm so that it doesn't go and fertilize the ovum. Copper releasing, the fertilizing capacity, the motility of the sperm is something that is, curved. COT, CU7, multi-load 375. Hormone releasing IUDs, these are making uterus unsuitable for implantation, and cervix, it is making it hostile. Maybe it is, there's too much of mucus which doesn't allow the sperm to swim. Otherwise, during ovulation, look at this human body, which is quite amazing. Not just is female body ovulating, it is making the condition ideal for the sperm to swim and pass through and get to the ovum by making very thin mucus at that point of time. It's not making it, very cloudy, like, so that the sperm will not be able to swim. So on the other hand, here the idea behind is to prevent conception. So it's making uterus unsuitable and the cervix hostile to the sperms, which is the hormone releasing IUD, right? Uh, and then we move on further to talk about, apart from IUDs, and also remember, this is the most preferable method for the females in India to space children. So if at all we are talking about the most common method, yes, IUD is one. Then oral administration of small doses of either progesterone or a combination of it. Now these are the pills I was talking about, taking for 21 days. So usually placebo pills which have no effect are given for the rest of the 7 days, because it's a daily habit. You can't stop on the 21st day. So sometimes it is replaced with seven other, multi-vitamin tablets, or ones with the placebo effect, no effect at all, which are given. So these are some things which are to be taken every single day. So Saheli comes into the picture here again. What about Saheli? It is something that can be taken just once a week. And also remember, another advantage with it is a non-steroidal one. Rest of these are the steroidal ones. So with steroidal ones, what happens is these hormones may cause side effects. What happens if there is high estrogen, progesterone? Again, this is something that is inhibiting the GnRH, the LH, and which doesn't allow the ovulation to occur. So this is how these hormones are taken. Now, injectables implants also have the same hormone combinations, but the mode how it is administered is different. Injectables are injected, implants are just put underneath the skin. This is one diagram that you can see in your NCRT, a 6-rod Norplant. There's a 2-rod Jadale also. There's a 1-rod Implanon also. And implants, one advantage is something that it can be as good as for 7 years also once it is implanted subcutaneously. Not very popular method here, but abroad and all, parents themselves allow the teenagers to get these implants because premarital sexual intercourse is something that's quite common there. So these implants contain these hormones which are released in very low concentrations, which can prevent the pregnancy, right? So apart from these, one very important concept again is an emergency contraceptive. So what do we mean by emergency contraceptive? As the term says, during the time point of emergency, maybe somebody had the sexual intercourse, unprotected one, and would not want this to lead to the pregnancy the next day. Or maybe it's a forced sexual coercion, something like a rape case, which you do not want to lead to pregnancy. So that point of time after the sexual intercourse within 72 hours, right? So this time period is also something that is quite important. If one is administered with progesterone estrogen combination or an IUD, it can still prevent the pregnancy. So the questions can be framed based on 72 hours after coitus, before coitus, 72 hours after menstruation, several different ways the MCQ can be made confusing, right? So understand that a couple had sexual intercourse and doesn't want it to lead to pregnancy. So these emergency contraceptives can come into the picture. They can be anything. They can be progesterone estrogen combination. They can be progesterones, right? They can be IUDs also that can be inserted within the 72 hours after coitus, right? Then we have surgical methods, the sterilization, which are the vasectomy and tubectomy. Now, important point here is many of you get confused between which is which. You tend to answer the other way round. So, no problem at all. Just understand again the previously linked human reproduction properly. Vast difference. Where do we find it? Male reproductive system. Fallopian tubes. Where do we find it? Female reproductive system. So, ectomy is nothing but a surgical removal. Tube is removed. Tubectomy, that would be in females. Vas difference is cut, that would be in the males. So that is how you're going to remember. So these are certain emergency contraceptives like IPIL. Let me put forth within 72 hours of coitus after the sexual intercourse, but within 72 hours. Which are all the different ones? It can be IUDs, right? Or it can be estrogen progesterone combination, or it can be just the progesterone. So these are all some things that can be introduced or administered within 72 hours of the coitus, right? So we were talking about these sterilization pills, right? Sterilization techniques. Look at this particular diagram here. So it's the fallopian tubes that are cut and tied back when it comes to the female reproductive system, which is called the tubectomy. So ectomy, remember, it's the surgical removal. Basically, it's the surgical removal. What are removed here? Here, it's the vas difference that is being cut and tied back. And here, it's the fallopian tube or the oviduct that is being cut and tied back. Why do we do this particular procedure? Right? So, basically, why do we do this procedure? Why do we have to even do this particular procedure? It's basically to prevent or block the transport of gametes. Block the transport of gametes. That is how we are preventing it. It is basically the gametes that are being blocked or transported, right? So next we talk about these tubectomy, where how was it performed? It is a small incision that is made in the abdomen of the females, right, for the tubectomy. On the other hand, in males, it is the incision that's made in the scrotum, right? One, it is a small incision that is made at the abdomen. Here it is a small incision that is made in the scrotum, right? And then, so we need to talk about, one must also remember that the contraceptives might have the side effects as well. So these are some things which will might have the side effects as well, which include nausea, abdomen pain, breakthrough bleeding. That breakthrough bleeding in the sense the bleeding might occur just at once, lots of it, or irregular menstrual bleeding, or even breast cancer eventually long term. These are some things that can happen as far as the these methods are concerned, the contraceptive methods are concerned. Side effects are common. So these are MTPs that we are talking about. So MTP is medical termination of pregnancy. It is the medical termination of the pregnancy. So what is medical termination of pregnancy? So it's basically talking about how the pregnancy is terminated. First of all, it is something that's legalized in the year 1971. Again, recall, RCH is something which is introduced the family planning program 1951. The family planning program is something that's more ideal compared to talking about the RCH. Family planning programs were introduced back then. And then we talk about the MTP 1971. So these are 2 years that you will have to remember importantly, right? So these are some things you will have to remember, right? So the MTPs are some things which are occurring world over, certain numbers that are given 45 to 50, one-fifth of these are. So why should we even perform MTP? There are several reasons that legally allow them. One, this is something that can be performed in case there is, you know, some health hazard that is involved for the growing fetus, or for the mother in case of continuation of pregnancy, or it is a result of just a casual sex where they do not, the couple doesn't want it to lead to pregnancy. So only under certain circumstances or reasons can this be performed. This can be performed only in those such cases that it can be performed. Yeah, do like, share, and subscribe our videos. Keep liking it, keep sharing it, keep subscribing it. I'll just remind you time to time. So this is MTP that we are talking about, right? It cannot be performed for some reason, like just because it's a female baby, or MTP cannot be used as a contraceptive method. It is not a contraceptive method. It is not something which is a contraceptive method, right? So hopefully this is running about in a proper manner. Let me just check. OBS is running, right? Hopefully. So it's not something which is a contraceptive method. It is something that is to be performed, only in certain cases. It's something which is safe during first 12 weeks of pregnancy. First 12 weeks of pregnancy is something that it is considered safe. This is a very, very important point. It is considered safe up to second semester are going to be riskier, but legally nowadays it is allowed up to about 20 weeks. But yes, it shouldn't be performed by unqualified quacks. It can lead to many problems for the mother, right? So this is something that has to be performed by health professionals. Then we talk about STIs, sexually transmitted infections. So this is something that several questions might be asked based on this also. These are also referred to as the venereal diseases. Recent NEET 2021, there was a question that was asked, how do these spread by the sexual intercourse from the infected mother to fetus, right? So all these are some things that can be allowing the spread. Kissing, of course, what is a little ambiguous one that is given, because certain STIs do transfer by the kissing also, and certain others do not. So gonorrhea, syphilis, genital herpes, chlamydiasis, genital warts, all these of which are not at all curable, include the genital herpes or the AIDS or hepatitis. This do not have a proper cure. I have a good table for you for these, right? You can follow this table. Which of the following STIs are bacterial? You can find out it's the chlamydiasis, gonorrhea, chancroid, the syphilis, right? Or which are viral? It is genital herpes, genital warts, AIDS, hepatitis B, right? So these are all some things which are caused by the viral agents. And then we have trichomoniasis, which is caused by the protozoan. It is something that's caused by a protozoan, right? So all these sexually transmitted infections, if you can follow these two tables, it is something that can be useful, because here the causative agent is given, the symptoms are also provided with, right? So, apart from these various sexual transmitted infections, it's important that you understand it is more in 15 to 24 age group, and it is something that can be avoided also by not having multiple sexual partners, by using certain barrier methods like condoms, or something very simple like contacting a doctor in case of doubt. It should be no more considered a taboo or something. It is something that's important that you immediately contact a doctor for it. So yeah, minor symptoms will include something like itching, fluid discharge, slight pain, swelling and all. And major symptoms, of course, is something that can be caused, right? A lot of other major symptoms that can be caused, right? Which can lead to permanent infertility, sterility, right? So those are also something that can be caused, right? So these are three important points. You can avoid sex with unknown partners. Always try and use condoms in case of doubt. You can contact a qualified doctor. So these are important steps that are to be followed, right? And then we move on further to infertility. This is infertility is something which is defined as a have a couple having sex unprotected one and still doesn't lead to pregnancy, right? Initially it was given for a year, and later it's even extended for 2 years. Actually, there can be reasons, and there's still no reasons also. So this is something that where you cannot pinpoint. Sometimes the couple may be absolutely healthy and still not have children. So there are reasons unknown also for infertility, apart from certain problems like I was discussing the other day, whether it is asthenospermia, very slow movement of the sperm, or teratospermia, the shape of the sperm is not proper, right? Oligospermia, very little of sperm, or azoospermia, which is absence of the sperm in the semen. So apart from these reasons, yes, in males, right, there can be Klinefelters, or it could be Downs, right? Or it may be Turner's in female. So there are several reasons why infertility might occur, or a perfectly healthy couple with perfect reproductive organs and still not be able to conceive. That is why unprotected sexual intercourse is now extended to up to 2 years, and still they will cannot conceive. That's when it's considered infertile, right? So there are specialized healthcare units which can help in diagnosis, which can help such couples to have children. It is what is referred to as ART, assisted reproductive technologies. These are the assisted reproductive technologies. These are including several methods like IVF, ET, ZIFT, GIFT, right? So let's look at each method in a diagrammatical manner, right? Let's look at it, each of it in a very diagrammatic manner, right? IVF is in vitro fertilization. Let me give a space there. This in vitro fertilization. So what do we mean by in vitro? Outside of human body, right? It is what is referred to as the outside of human body. Quite important, all these arts. These are the two important topics I was talking about. One is contraceptive methods and two is the arts. In vitro fertilization, it's something that is occurring outside of the human body. So this is something that is occurring outside of the human body, right? So this is in vitro fertilization, where outside of the human body there is the fertilization that is occurring of the sperm and the ovum. Sperm and ovum are fertilized in a petri dish. Although yes, because it is done in the lab, it is test tube baby. It is what is also called a test tube baby program. Is something that is referred to as the test tube baby program, right? Which is, a misnomer that's called, but it is actually in petri dish. We allow this to occur, and the zygote is then transferred. ET stands for embryo transfer, right? This embryo transfer can be in two different ways. If at all it is transferred to, say, the fallopian tube, then this particular technique is what is called as ZIFT, zygote intrafallopian transfer. In case the zygote is transferred to a uterus, we call it IUT, intrauterine transfer. So here it is more than 8 blastomeres that is transferred. It is beneath these 8 blastomeres, then we transfer it to the fallopian tube. It is something that is transferred into the fallopian tube, right? Then we move on to the next method, which is the gift technique, right? So, gift is something where you transfer the gamete. I will explain as we move on to the diagrams further. Here it is talking about ICSI, which is intracytoplasmic sperm injection. Intracytoplasmic sperm injection, where a sperm is introduced into the cytoplasmic portion of the ovum, right? It is introduced into the cytoplasmic sperm portion of the ovum. Obviously, it is done in vitro, in the lab, outside of the female body. So this is also a in vitro method, right? And then we have gift. which is gamete intrafallopian transfer. Gamete intrafallopian transfer, right? So here this is helping those females who cannot produce ova. You're aspirating eggs from the ovum of a healthy female from the ovary of a healthy female and is transferring into the one who cannot produce ovum. So it is something which is useful for females who cannot produce ovum, otherwise have a healthy uterus, but have a healthy uterus. And next method is zift. This I already told you that zygote is something that is transferred into the fallopian tube. It's zygote intrafallopian transfer, right? And then we have IUT. It is intrauterine transfer. It is what is referred to as the intrafallopian transfer. And next it is artificial insemination. Artificial insemination, where you are artificially inserting the sperm, because maybe there are problems like with the sexual intercourse, or maybe the sperm is not motile enough. You transfer the sperm into the female genital tract, not through natural sexual intercourse but through a artificial way, right? Insemination is the introduction of the sperm into the ovum. So surrogacy, we are talking about how a female who is not the biological mother, who would not have produced the ovum, the sperm of the father or the donor and the ovum of the mother are taken, and the zygote is introduced into somebody who could carry the baby for the gestation time period, and those are the surrogate mothers, right? So there are several different emotional, religious, social factors that are deterrents, but it's very important that adoption is also a method that is to be considered. So overall, I would suggest that two important topics from this is: one are the contraceptive methods, and two are the arts. And apart from it, you can also concentrate a wee little bit on the STI, sexually transmitted infections as well. So here's some quiz that I prepared for you. Hormone releasing IUD is. So hormone releasing IUD, come on guys, you can answer this. It's basically LNG-20, because all these three are the copper releasing IUDs. Copper releasing IUDs. Highlighted. These are the copper releasing IUDs. Next up, we have the venereal diseases which can spread through sterilized needles, transfusion of blood from infected persons, infected mother to fetus, kissing and inheritance. This is the 2021 question that has appeared as far as VDs are concerned, or sexually transmitted infections are concerned. So this transfusion of blood from infected persons definitely causes it. Infected mother to fetus, yes, is something that is causing it, and kissing is something that might cause some diseases as well, some STIs, not all venereal diseases. So that was some ambiguous question that is asked. Which of the following are STDs are not curable? As I mentioned, genital herpes, hepatitis B, and HIV are still not completely curable. And which of the following techniques the embryos are transferred to assist those females who cannot conceive? For those females, which are the techniques that are performed which can assist them, that will be the gift and the zygote intrafallopian transfer. The embryos are transferred to assist those females. Here we are talking about the transfer of embryo. So embryo is something that can be transferred to the uterus, right, which is by the IUT technique, or it can be transferred to the zygote by the ZIFT technique, right? So ZIFT and IUT would be our answer, how the embryo is transferred to assist, right? Zygote or the embryo is transferred. Rest gift, you are transferring basically the gamete. So wherever that is there, you can rule out that, right? Gift. And ICSI is where you're allowing the sperm injection, right, into the ovum. So that is also ruled out in this case. And then correct option, gift involves IVF to help women who cannot produce ovum to bear a child, right? Involves IF, no. ZIFT involves IVF to help women who cannot produce ovum. ZIFT involves IVF to help women who have a damaged fallopian tubes to bear. No, fallopian tube is damaged, zygote cannot be transferred. IUI can help a woman with premature menopause to bear a child. Intrauterine insemination can help women with premature menopause to bear a child. No, then also once menopause is occurring, it's not possible. So gift is something that is given to or can be performed for those who cannot produce the ovum. So this is our overall schedule. You can also attend our other excellent faculty lectures as well, which are scheduled on these days. Of course, this is one which has moved to Wednesday here, but definitely let's this is one that has moved. We can go ahead and meet for two more classes in the month of Jan scheduled, right, which are basically on the 18th as well as 25th. So stay tuned for Animal Kingdom and Digestion chapters on 18th and 25th. Not just that, but we also have excellent faculty, Aman Verma, Vibhati Jain ma'am, Aman Verma sir, Kiran Chaudhary ma'am, Suchita ma'am, all these delivering their beautiful lectures in the upcoming days. Do not miss attending these lectures, right? So definitely attend these particular lectures, right? And stay tuned. You can also visit our website, use my coupon code Mythili40, MYTHILI40 for the discount in any of our courses. Keep learning, keep attending our sessions. If it is YouTube videos, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. At the same time, do visit our website to check out all these different plethora of wonderful courses offered by excellent faculty, right? And as I always say, learning should be infinite and fun from our infinity learn caption or our motto. We always say that learning is infinite and fun. Thank you all for a very patient listening, and happy learning to you all, right?